Hi everybody, welcome to Christian Homestead. My name is Jared. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. In a recent video, I found out that there's a Brigham Young Papers project, or I think it's officially titled the Brigham Young Center, but it's similar to the Joseph Smith Papers and the Wilford Woodruff Papers. And I was really excited about that because we found so many interesting things on those websites. And I found one entry here that caught my eye that says, well, part of it here says a dream. And then after that, it says Order of Enoch. So I had to check this out. I have a spreadsheet where I'm trying to collect as many visions and visitations, near-death experiences, where a general authority comes in contact with a heavenly being or someone from the other side of the veil. And I have this timeline here. So we're looking at this one. It's a dream of Brigham Young. It's my newest entry. If you go to the bottom of the spreadsheet, I have my tally by decade. So this is my 8th one for the 1840s. And this makes a total of 91 that I have on this spreadsheet. There's still more work I need to do on this. I have plans for it, but it's just hard to find the time to do it. But I am just amazed at how many we actually have. I would not have guessed that we had this many visions, visitations recorded. Not that this many haven't happened, but that there's so many that are recorded and published or mentioned in discourses and talks. So anyway, it's so interesting. Okay, so we're going to go to BYU Scripture Citation Index for this one. I don't know if it's maybe the browser that I'm using, or maybe it's because I think this is a relatively new website. I'm not sure, but I haven't been able to get the primary documents to pull up. I don't know if there's transcriptions yet, but that's okay. They have the source right here. So this is Journal of Discourses. And there's actually two that I want to look at. They're both from Brigham Young, and it's the same dream, but the surrounding material, the surrounding things that he says around the dream are a little bit different, and I thought that they were both really good. So we're going to start with this one. This is Journal of Discourses, Volume 18. This is page 243b is where it starts. And it says, "Now we come to our present condition. You know the past. These children who were born in this city or territory know what they can remember, and many of them are old enough to have many reflections and can see and understand a great many things. But the older ones know that this people have drifted just as far as they can without a reformation. Every spiritual mind knows this. I will now say to my brethren and sisters that while we were in winter quarters, the Lord gave to me a revelation just as much as he ever gave one to anybody. He opened my mind and showed me the organization of the kingdom of God in a family capacity. I talked it to my brethren. I would throw out a few words here and a few words there to my first counselor, to my second counselor, and the 12 apostles. But with the exception of one or two of the 12, it would not touch a man. They believed it would come, oh yes, but it would be by and by. Says I, why not now? If I had been worth millions when we came into this valley and built what we now call the old fort, I would have given it the people if the people had been prepared to then receive the kingdom of God according to the pattern given to Enoch. But I could not touch them." Now, before I continue, you may be thinking that he's referring to plural marriage, and he does touch on that like at the end of this discourse. But as you're about to see, I don't think it's exclusively that. I think it's more. And if you know what this revelation is, if you've already looked into it, please let me know. Put it in the comments below, send me an email. So it's a revelation he received in winter quarters having to do with the organization of the kingdom of God. He mentions the family in relation to that in the pattern of Enoch, the order of Enoch. Now, I don't know if this is something that maybe we don't have or still hasn't been revealed. I'm not sure. We know that there's plenty that has not been revealed yet. There could be things that church leadership knows about that's been revealed, but it's not the proper time for it to come out. I want to point out really quick before we continue. On my spreadsheet called Quotes A through Z, if you go to what's currently row 296 for Joe Smith Jr., he knew more. We have all these quotes talking about the fact that Joseph Smith, he didn't reveal everything that he knew because he couldn't, because the church was not ready. People were not ready. And so I don't think that that would be a phenomenon unique to Joseph Smith's time. I'm sure that it's been during the presidency of each president of the church all the way until now. I wouldn't be surprised. So anyway, let's continue. So he just said that he couldn't, there's a revelation that he couldn't reveal yet to the saints. And then this, I guess, is the context. He says, one would say, I am for California. Another one, I am for gold. And I am for this and I am for that. And some use their influence in trying to persuade others to go to California. They said, you can't stay here. You can't raise anything here. It is too cold, too frosty. These mountains are not fit to live in. This is not the place for white people. Let us go to California and get some gold, etc. Now, keep in mind, after the Saints came to the Salt Lake Valley in 1847, and by the way, happy Pioneer Day. I'm recording this on Pioneer Day, but I'm going to schedule it 2 days from now. So I hope you had a happy Pioneer Day. After the Saints came to the Salt Lake Valley in 1847, it was only 2 years later that you had the California Gold Rush. And so it seems that this was a problem for the church, for President Brigham Young, because the Lord had brought the saints to the Salt Lake Valley, and this is where they were supposed to be. And this was going to be the new headquarters of the church, and it still is. But I love so much what he says after this, and it involves the dream that we're going to talk about. Okay, now I'm going to tell a dream that I had, which I think is as applicable to the people today, the 21st day of June, 1874, as when I had it. There were so many going to California and going this way and that way, and they did not know what they wanted. And said I, stay here. We can raise our food here. I know it is a good stock country, a good sheep country, as good a country for raising silk as there is in the world. And we shall raise some of the best of wheat. There stands a man, Burr Frost, and there is Truman O'Angel, who were present at the time. Said I, we can raise all we want here. Do not go away. Do not be discouraged. That was when the pioneers came. The next year, it was California, 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 California. No, said I, stay here. After much thought and reflection and a good deal of praying and anxiety as to whether the people would be saved after all our trouble and being driven into the wilderness, I had a dream one night, the second year after we came in here. Captain Brown had gone up to the Weber and bought a little piece or a little place belonging to Miles Goodyear. Miles Goodyear had a few goats, and I had a few sheep that I had driven into the valley, and I wanted to get a few goats to put along with the sheep. I had seen Captain Brown and spoken to him about the goats, and he said I could have them. Just at that time, I had this dream, which I will now relate. I thought I had started and gone past the hot springs, which is about 4 miles north of this city. I was going after my goats when I had gone round the point of the mountain by the hot springs and had got about a half mile on the rise of ground beyond the spring. Whom should I meet but Brother Joseph Smith? Which is so interesting to think of Joseph Smith in Utah. Of course, this was a dream, but I don't know about you, but for me, I always associate him with Nauvoo, Missouri, New York, Pennsylvania, Kirtland. He had a wagon with no bed on, with bottom boards and tents and camp equipage piled on. Somebody sat on the wagon driving the team. Behind the team, I saw a great flock of sheep. I heard their bleating and saw some goats among them. I looked at them and thought, this is curious, Brother Joseph. This is curious, Brother Joseph has been up to Captain Brown's and got my goats. There were men driving the sheep, and some of the sheep, I should think, were 3.5 feet high, with large, fine, beautiful white fleeces, and they looked so lovely and pure. Others were of moderate size and pure and white, and in fact, there were sheep of all sizes, with fleeces clean, pure and white. Then I saw some that were dark and spotted, of all colors and sizes and kinds, and their fleeces were dirty, and they looked inferior. Some of these were a pretty good size, not as large as some of the large, fine, clean sheep, and altogether there was a multitude of them of all sizes and kinds, and goats of all colors, sizes, and kinds mixed among them. Joseph stopped the wagon, and the sheep kept rushing up until there was an immense herd. I looked at Joseph's eye and laughed, just as I had many a time when he was alive, about some trifling thing or other. And said I, Joseph, you've got the darndest flock of sheep I ever saw in my life. What are you going to do with them? What on earth are they for? Joseph looked cunningly out of his eyes, just as he used to at times, and said they are all good in their places. When I awoke in the morning, I did not find any fault with those who wanted to go to California. I said, if they want to go, let them go, and we will do all we can to save them. I have no more fault to find. The sheep and the goats will run together. But Joseph says they are all good in their places. This will apply precisely to what we are doing at the present time. We are trying to unite the people together in the order that the Lord revealed to Enoch, which will be observed and sustained in the latter days in redeeming and building up Zion. This is the very order that we will do, in nothing short of it. Let me pause right here. It makes me think about President Nelson right now, how one of his things is he wants us to live in a higher, holier way. And I think another way you could say that is he's probably trying to help us live after this order, the order of Enoch, Zion, like the Nephites after Christ came, because we're getting to that point when Christ is going to come to us. And that's the type of society that we need to have within the church. Okay, continuing. We are trying to organize the Latter-day Saints into this order, but I want to tell you, my brethren and sisters, that I have not come here to say that you've got to join this order or we will cut you off the church, or you must join this order or we will consider you apostates. No such thing. Oh no. The saints are not prepared to see everything at once. Again, this interesting idea that he's talking about where not everything's revealed. And again, I doubt that even to this day, 2025, well, today for me, July 24th, 2025, Pioneer Day, I doubt that everything has been revealed. And so we're going to need to stay flexible, you guys, and live righteously and follow the prophet, gain a testimony that he is the prophet and the Lord guides his church through the prophet. And we don't have everything. And there's going to be even more when Christ comes. So, okay, the saints are not prepared to see everything at once. They've got to learn little by little and to receive a little here and a little there. Since we commenced to organize at St. George, I've not had a feeling in my heart but to say to those who cannot see this order, I have not had a feeling in my heart but to say to those who cannot see this order, try and live your religion, get the Spirit of the Lord and keep it, humble yourselves before the Lord and get his Spirit, ask, that's a good idea if we're having a problem with a change in the church, ask the Father in the name of Jesus to open your minds and let you see things as they are, and you will delight in it. And I say to all those who wish to receive the order, come along and we will organize you and we will do the very best we can for you. It is true that some who are in the order talk very foolishly to those who do not feel to come into it. They throw out some very unbecoming expressions. This is entirely wrong. It is not called for. It is not needed, and it will not do the least good in the world. We must manifest and show to our brethren a purer life than we have heretofore. I will say to you who want to be organized in this order, we will not take 1 red cent from you, but the Lord will add to your riches and honor if you will take counsel. As we have said from the beginning, we do not want a man's farm, we do not want his gold and his silver, and nothing in the world but just his time. We want to dictate the time of the Latter-day Saints to show them that we can come into the order of God and that we will be that people that the Lord has said with regard to temporal things. Speaking of the Latter-day Saints, the Lord has said, I will make you the richest people on the earth. Doctrine and Covenants 38:39. And he can do it just as well as not, if we have a mind to let him. It is the time of the people we want to dictate. So you see here, he's talking about this order and things that haven't been revealed. He's talking about temporal things. It probably includes a lot of things, but essentially, from what we just read, it sounds like it's law of consecration type things. And we're not currently living the full implementation of the law of consecration. We will at some point. I suppose it'll probably be in the millennium. So, and that's going to be hard for some people. It depends on, I suppose, if you're a sheep or a goat. And even if you're sheep, it might be hard. But anyway, it's interesting because there's this tendency to fight against enemies of the church or people that may be apostate or have apostate leanings. And it seems that the right answer is not to fight them, not try to manipulate them, use coercion or things like that to get them to stay in the church, but rather just let them be. Let them alone. In fact, he talks more about this in this other account. So this is going back to volume 6 of Journal of Discourses. And I'll just let him say it because he says it better. All right, he says, and by the way, this is page 320, column B. I will now leave these items and take up another. I hinted today at the wisdom of the Lord in opening the gold mines, and said he had one object in view among many others, namely to try the faith of the saints. By this his wisdom has been exhibited and much accomplished by it among those who are not saints. Take a view of this community. A portion will not be saints. This has always been the case when God has a church on the earth. They are not all sheep that are in the fold. Neither are they all saints who bear the name. I wish you to understand that when the sheep are separated from the goats, they will never again bear the like afflictions they bore while they mingled with the goats, as long as the world stands. No, neither in this world nor in any other. Let the sheep and the goats be once separated, and the master of the flock of sheep will never afflict them. When there are no goats to annoy the sheep, the latter will mingle with each other and go hand in hand in full fellowship. But when the goats are among the sheep, they besmear them with their stink, and they frisk about and behave so as to actually turn the sheep almost into goats. They will grow short in the hair, look like goats, and stink like them. The master of the flock must therefore do something to preserve the blood of the sheep pure, lest they completely degenerate and altogether become goats. They must be chastened by persecution to drive out the stinking goats from their midst. The Lord opened the California gold mines to lead them off. And I say to the goats, go. I am glad of it. And you guys, I know that we all feel the same way. That's not to say that we're wanting to push people out of the church, but we know that there are people in the church that don't really believe in the church. They're doing church for some other reason than a true believer would. It could be for social reasons. Maybe there's somebody that married into the church and they just joined the church because they wanted to marry somebody, or they feel like church is a social club, or they look at how the church can benefit them, whether socially or temporally or in some other way. Especially if you're in Utah, it's probably beneficial because you have so many members of the church to, in their mind, be part of the club, right? Be part of the prevailing society, depending on what part of Utah you live in. So again, there's this like kind of knee-jerk reaction when something comes up. Say it's a YouTube channel that's kind of apostate, or say that it's someone who's maybe not apostate, they're full on anti against the church. Whether it's a book or a podcast or someone in your personal life, or maybe you have a bunch of, it may not even be like a influence like that. You may have some trend that's going on that's taking people away from their covenants. Well, look at what he's saying here. Just replace California gold mines with whatever that trend may be, whatever that book may be, or podcast or influence. The Lord opened the California gold mines to lead them off and to say to the goats, go. I am glad of it. But do you not think the sheep will go too? Never mind if they do. They will get well besmeared with the flavor of the goats, run off and wash themselves, and come back again. Though I speak thus, I do not despise the goats. No, not in the least. Okay, and then after that, this gray part right here is just the dream. I'm not going to read it again. It's, worded just a little bit differently, but there's nothing to significantly change from what we read. And then after that, he says, so it is with this people. If you can only find the place for the goats, they answer the end for which they were made. Because remember, Joseph Smith said in the dream, they are all good in their place. It's almost like saying, just leave it. Just let them make their choices. Let them be attracted to this. Let them be attracted to that. Yes, it's bad. We want to do what we can to keep them in the church. But if they go and do that thing, well, maybe that thing is serving its purpose. Okay, so it is with this people. If you can only find the place for the goats, they answer the end for which they were made. I've always realized that a half-hearted, quote-unquote, Mormon is one of the meanest of human beings, for such are always ready to say, how do you do, brother devil? Oh, it's not funny, but how do you do, brother devil? And how do you do, brother Jesus? Or, brother Jesus, I want to make you acquainted with brother devil. I know that you guys know people like this that have 1 foot in Zion, 1 foot in Babylon. People that they want to like mix the two together. And sometimes it's worldly things. Sometimes it's strange paths that people go on. I'm always so sad when people will send me emails or comments recommending something that is clearly not compatible with the church, or clearly not compatible with the way that I do things, how I stick strictly to church doctrine, the words of living prophets and the scriptures all together. It blows my mind. I'm sorry to say, but it blows my mind the small percentage of you, that just you just go to anything that sounds exciting. You listen to anything that is spectacular, strange, out of the mainstream. And there's nothing wrong with that necessarily, as long as okay. So people need to clearly state if they're speculating. Bruce R. McConkie said it's okay to speculate as long as you clearly state it, but there's so many people that teach their speculations as truth. Beyond that, you have people that just flat out step outside the way that the church works. And then you guys will recommend that stuff to me. And I just, and there's different reasons, you have people that may be new to the church, and that's excusable because you're not familiar with the church. You don't know how it works. And so everything's still new to you. That's fine. You have people, and I'm not making a joke out of this. You have people that have mental illness, and it's hard to distinguish maybe sometimes. But then you have other people that, if you've been a member of the church for a while, you should know the influences that are bad. You should be able to detect wolves in sheep's clothing, and not follow those people or those trends. You understand what I'm saying? And so I would invite you to take a hard look at yourself. Are you doing this? How do you do, brother? How do you do, brother devil? And how do you do, brother Jesus? Or brother Jesus, I want to make you acquainted with brother devil. No, no. You guys, you can't do a fusion of the church with other belief systems or other weird things that are out there. I see it all the time. I'm not going to call out certain things or people because I don't like to do that necessarily. Sometimes I'll talk about certain topics, but I see people that treat the church like it's a buffet. It's like, oh, you kind of pick and choose what you want and then bring something in from another restaurant and put it all together. No, it's not a buffet. It's not a buffet. You can't just pick and choose. And you can't bring in outside drinks from other, or drinks and food from other restaurants. Okay, so how do you do, brother devil? And how do you do, brother Jesus? Or brother Jesus, I want to make you acquainted with brother devil. It's no trouble for them to turn unto Baal or unto Jesus. Yet at the same time, the Lord has a use for them. I've often heard men say they are convinced that Mormonism, quote unquote, was true and that they would cleave to it. But as for their hearts being converted, it is altogether another thing. Mobs never have done one thing against this people, but they could trace them and have known all about it. For you will always find that the goats will run and lick salt with the sheep. And the Lord who made them has placed them in the world to serve his own purposes. When by these characters afflictions are brought upon the saints, and they are bereft of all they possess, it is to make them more attached to the cause of truth, while their persecutors are hurled into oblivion, which is the last of them. So, I don't know. I just want to reiterate, if you have a person, a group, something that's bothering you, a trend in society, worldly things, if it's bothering you and you know a member of the church that's going for those things, yeah, it's sad, but that thing, that people, that group, whatever, may be serving a purpose to try people's faith, and also to help separate the sheep and the goats. And if the person is truly a sheep, if they're a good person, people can be deceived. But like President Brigham Young said, they will come back. If they are really concerned with the truth and they want to do what the Lord wants them to do, they will come back after making that mistake, because they are actively seeking for truth, even if they step off the path for a while. And then the goats, they're goats. So they're not going to come back. And maybe it's better that they go and stop causing problems, in your family, in your ward, in your stake, on social media. So I don't know. I really like these two things that we read. And I'm happy that I have another dream for my spreadsheet. And as always, it just makes me wonder, how many more are there? How many more accounts am I gonna end up with on this spreadsheet? I don't know, but it seems like it's far from over, and I'm glad because I love all these. Okay, well, that's gonna be it for this one. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.